A 7-year-old girl had been stalked for 3 weeks. The police said it was her imagination. Her parents couldn't prove anything. Then she saw him walking toward her in the park, and the only person nearby was a massive biker covered in tattoos. She grabbed his hand and whispered, "He's following me. Please don't let him take me." Adi, the biker looked at the man approaching, looked at the terror in the little girl's eyes, and made a decision that would bring 200 Hell's Angels to that city by dawn. Sarah first saw the man in the blue hat 3 weeks ago. She was leaving school, walking toward her mother's car, when she noticed him standing across the street, just standing there, watching. He wasn't doing anything wrong, wasn't breaking any laws, just a man on a sidewalk, looking at a school. But something about him made Sarah's stomach hurt. She told her mom that night. "There was a man watching me today. He had a blue hat." Her mother, Jennifer, looked up from the dishes. "Watching you how, sweetie?" "Just watching. He didn't move. He just stared. He was probably waiting for someone. His own kid, maybe." "He didn't have a kid. He was alone." Jennifer dried her hands and crouched down to Sarah's level. "I'm sure it was nothing, baby, but if you see him again, you tell me right away, okay?" Sarah saw him again the next day. Same spot, same blue hat, same empty stare. And the day after that, and the day after that. By the end of the first week, Sarah was terrified. The man wasn't just at school anymore. He was everywhere. At the grocery store, pretending to look at cereal while watching her and her mother from across the aisle. At the park, sitting on a bench while Sarah played on the swings. At the library, browsing books he never checked out, always in whatever section Sarah wandered to. She told her parents everything. They believed her at first. Then they started to doubt. "Are you sure it's the same man, sweetie? Blue hats are pretty common." "It's him, Daddy, I know it's him. But you said he was at the grocery store on Tuesday." "We didn't go to the grocery store on Tuesday." "We did. Mom and I went after school." Her father looked at her mother. Her mother looked uncomfortable. "Honey, we went on Wednesday, not Tuesday." Sarah felt her face burn. She knew what day it was. She knew what she had seen. But suddenly she wasn't sure of anything. "Maybe you're just noticing people more because you're scared," her mother said gently. "Sometimes when we're worried about something, we see it everywhere. I'm not making it up." "We're not saying you're making it up. We're just saying maybe he's real." Sarah ran to her room and slammed the door. She wasn't crazy. She wasn't imagining things. The man in the blue hat was following her, and nobody would believe her. Her parents called the police anyway. An officer came to the house. Officer Martinez. He had kind eyes and a patient smile and a notebook that stayed mostly empty. "So, you've seen a man in a blue hat," he said. "Can you describe him?" Sarah tried. "Average height, brown hair, thin. The blue hat, always the blue hat. And he's been following you?" "Yes, for 2 weeks now." "Has he ever approached you? Spoken to you? Tried to touch you?" "No, he just watches." Officer Martinez nodded slowly. "Sarah, I understand this is scary, but without more information, a license plate, a name, a specific threat, there's not much we can do. There's no law against being in public places." "But he's following me." "I hear you. And I want you to know that if anything changes, if he approaches you, if he says anything, you call 911 immediately." He handed her parents his card. "Keep an eye out. Document what you can. But right now, there's nothing actionable." After he left, Sarah heard her parents talking in the kitchen. "Maybe she's going through something at school. Stress can cause—" "She's 7, Jennifer. What stress does a 7-year-old have?" "I don't know, but the officer said there's nothing he can do. Maybe we should talk to her teacher, or a counselor." Sarah put her pillow over her head and screamed into it. Nobody believed her, nobody would help, she was alone. The 3rd week was the worst. Sarah stopped sleeping. Every shadow became the man in the blue hat. Every creak in the house became footsteps coming for her. She had nightmares so vivid she woke up screaming, convinced he was in her room. Her parents took her to a child psychologist. The psychologist asked gentle questions and nodded thoughtfully and used words like anxiety and hypervigilance and age-appropriate fears. It's not uncommon for children her age to become fixated on perceived threats, she told Jennifer and David afterward. The mind can play tricks, especially during developmental transitions. So she's imagining it? I wouldn't say imagining. I'd say she's interpreting normal stimuli through a lens of fear. The man in the blue hat may be real, may even be the same man, but his presence is likely coincidental. Sarah's brain is assigning meaning where there isn't any. Sarah sat in the waiting room, staring at the fish tank, knowing exactly what they were saying about her. Crazy, scared, making things up, but she wasn't. She wasn't. The day everything changed was a Saturday. Sarah's parents had taken her to Lincoln Park, a treat, they said. Fresh air, sunshine, a chance to feel normal. They were sitting on a blanket near the pond, eating sandwiches, pretending everything was fine. Then Sarah saw him, the man in the blue hat, walking along the path, coming closer. Her sandwich fell from her hands. "Sarah, what's wrong?" She couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. He was here, even at the park miles from home he had found her. He was walking toward them now, slowly, casually, like he had every right to be there. "Sarah, honey, you're white as a sheet. I need to use the bathroom." She stood up before her parents could respond and walked quickly toward the restrooms near the playground. Not running. Running would attract attention, but fast enough to get away. She glanced back. The man had changed direction, was following her. Sarah's heart hammered. The restrooms were too far, too isolated. If she went there, if he followed, if nobody else was around, she needed help. Right now. She scanned the park desperately. Families on blankets, kids on swings, dog walkers on distant paths. And there on a bench near the oak trees, a man sat alone. He was massive, covered in tattoos, wearing a leather vest with patches she didn't recognize. He looked like the kind of person her parents told her to stay away from, the kind of person who appeared in news stories with words like gang and dangerous. He was also the only adult within reach. Sarah ran. Vince, Razor DeLuca, was having a bad day. His ex-wife had called that morning. Another excuse for why he couldn't see his daughter this weekend. Another reminder of every mistake he'd ever made, every choice that had led him here, alone on a park bench, watching other fathers play with their kids. He shouldn't have come. It just made the pain worse. But he couldn't stay away. 2 years since he'd held Lily. 2 years since she'd called him daddy. 2 years of supervised visits that never happened and promises that were never kept. He was lost in misery when the little girl appeared. She was small. 6, maybe 7, blonde pigtails, pink jacket, eyes wide with terror. She grabbed his hand like he was the last solid thing in a dissolving world. "Please help me. There's a man following me. The one in the blue hat. He's been following me for weeks, and nobody believes me, and he's right there, and please don't let him take me." Vince looked up. A man was approaching. Thin, brown hair, blue baseball cap. He was maybe 30 feet away, walking with purpose, eyes fixed on the little girl. Vince had seen a lot of predators in his life, had dealt with them in ways the police couldn't. He knew the look, that hungry, patient calculation, the way they moved, the way they watched. This man was a predator, no question. "What's your name, sweetheart?" Sarah Mitchell." "Okay, Sarah, I want you to stand behind me, right behind me. And don't move until I tell you it's safe." Sarah scrambled behind the bench, pressing herself against his back. Vince stood up. He was 6'4", 260 pounds, arms like tree trunks, a face that had scared grown men into silence. The man in the blue hat stopped. For a moment they just stared at each other. Predator and protector, calculating, measuring. Then the man smiled, a cold, empty smile, turned and walked away. "Is he gone?" Sarah whispered. Vince watched the man disappear down a path toward the parking lot. "For now." He pulled out his phone and made a call. "Ghost, I need you at Lincoln Park, now, and bring everyone you can reach." Sarah's parents found her 20 minutes later. They had been frantic, searching the park, calling her name, convinced something terrible had happened. What they found was their 7-year-old daughter sitting next to a terrifying biker on a park bench, eating ice cream from a cart and chatting like old friends. Sarah... Jennifer ran toward them. David followed, his face cycling through relief, confusion, and fear. "Get away from my daughter." Vince didn't move, didn't react to the aggression. "Your daughter came to me for help. There was a man following her, blue hat. He's been stalking her for weeks. We've been through this." "The police said..." "The police are wrong." Vince's voice was granite. "I saw him. I saw the way he looked at her. That man is hunting your daughter, and if you don't do something about it, he's going to catch her." Jennifer's face went pale. You saw him? Thin guy, brown hair, blue baseball cap, late 30s, maybe early 40s. He was walking straight towards Sarah until I stood up. Then he changed course and headed for the parking lot. "Oh my God." Jennifer's hands were shaking. "Oh my God, it's real. It's actually real." David pulled out his phone. "I'm calling the police." "That'll take too long." Vince stood up. "I have people coming. They'll sweep the park, check the exits, try to get a plate number or ID. People? What people?" As if in answer, the sound of engines filled the air. Motorcycles, dozens of them, pouring into the park's main entrance like a chrome avalanche. Jennifer grabbed Sarah and pulled her close. David stepped in front of them both. "What is this? Who are you?" "My name is Vince DeLuca. I'm with the Hells Angels." He watched his brothers dismount, spreading out through the park with practiced efficiency. "And nobody hurts kids on my watch." The sweep took 2 hours. 47 bikers searched every inch of Lincoln Park. They checked parking lots, recorded license plates, questioned vendors and joggers, and anyone who might have seen a man in a blue hat. They found his car, a grey Honda Civic, parked in the overflow lot, registered to a P.O. box in Indiana. Ghost ran the plates through contacts who didn't ask questions. The car was registered to Marcus Webb. Marcus Webb had warrants in 5 states. Marcus Webb was a registered sex offender who had failed to report his address change. Marcus Webb had a history of stalking children, grooming them, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The police found this information very interesting when Vince's lawyer presented it to them 3 hours later. Officer Martinez looked at the file, then at Sarah's parents, then at the group of bikers standing outside the police station. "How did you get this? Does it matter?" Martinez was quiet for a long moment. Then he picked up his phone. "I need to issue a BOLO. Marcus Webb, wanted in connection with stalking and attempted child endangerment." He looked at Sarah, who was clutching her mother's hand. "I'm sorry we didn't believe you sooner. That's on us." Sarah didn't say anything. She just leaned against her mother and closed her eyes. For the first time in 3 weeks, she felt safe. They found Marcus Webb 2 days later. He was hiding in a motel outside the city, watching the news coverage of his own manhunt. The police caught him trying to flee through a back window. In his room they found photographs, hundreds of them, children from playgrounds, from schools, from parks. Children he had stalked across 5 states. Sarah was in 17 of the photos. Some were from outside her school, some from the grocery store, some from her own backyard, taken through a gap in the fence. He had been watching her for months, not weeks, months, planning, waiting, building towards something that never came, because a 7-year-old girl had trusted the scariest person she could find. And that person had answered. The news broke like a firestorm. Serial child stalker, caught after bikers intervene. Hells Angels save 7-year-old from predator, police ignored. Little girl's instinct leads to capture of wanted criminal. The story had everything the media loved. A vulnerable child, incompetent authorities, unlikely heroes, a villain with a dark past. It spread across national news within 24 hours. Sarah's face was everywhere. Her parents tried to shield her, but there was no escaping the attention. The police held a press conference. Officer Martinez stood at the podium, looking uncomfortable. "We take all reports seriously," he said, reading from prepared remarks. In this case, the initial complaint lacked sufficient evidence for actionable intervention. However, thanks to community involvement, we were able to identify and apprehend a dangerous individual. Community involvement. That's what they were calling it now. Not a biker gang did our job for us. Not we dismissed a terrified child until strangers stepped up. Community involvement. Vince watched the press conference from the clubhouse, surrounded by brothers who were alternately laughing and cursing at the screen. Community involvement, Ghost repeated, shaking his head. That's rich. At least the guy's off the streets. For now. Until some lawyer gets him out on a technicality. Vince's jaw tightened. That was always the fear. The system was broken, designed to protect criminals more than victims. Men like Marcus Webb knew how to manipulate it, how to slip through cracks, how to disappear and resurface somewhere new. We're not going to let that happen, Vince said. How do we stop it? We make sure everyone knows who he is and what he did. Every state, every city, every jurisdiction. Vince stood up. And we make sure that little girl never has to be afraid again. How? Vince looked at his brothers. These men who had ridden through the night to hunt a predator. These men the world called criminals. We protect her for as long as she needs us. The protection started the next day. Sarah's parents were hesitant at first, grateful, but hesitant. Having Hell's Angels outside their house wasn't exactly what they'd envisioned for their family. But then Sarah asked a question that changed everything. Can Vince come over? Jennifer blinked. What? Vince, the man from the park. He made me feel safe. Sarah looked at her mother with eyes that had seen too much for 7 years old. Nobody else made me feel safe, but he did. Jennifer didn't know what to say. Her daughter had been failed by every system designed to protect her. Police, school, even her own parents who had doubted her. And the only person who had immediately, unconditionally believed her was a man covered in tattoos with a criminal record. I'll call him. Vince came that afternoon. He sat in their living room, this massive biker surrounded by flower print pillows and family photos, looking completely out of place. But Sarah climbed onto the couch beside him like it was the most natural thing in the world. Will the bad man come back? No, sweetheart. He's in jail now. But what if he gets out? Vince looked at Jennifer and David, then back at Sarah. Then I'll be here, me and my brothers. We're going to make sure you're safe, forever, for as long as you need us. Sarah leaned against him, satisfied. Jennifer felt tears prick her eyes. This stranger, this supposed criminal, had given her daughter something she couldn't. Peace. Thank you, she whispered. Vince just nodded. He didn't need thanks. He needed to do what he hadn't been able to do for his own daughter. He needed to protect someone who needed protecting. The arrangement became official within a week. 2 brothers rotated outside the Mitchell house at all times, not visible, not obvious, just present, watching, making sure nobody got close who wasn't supposed to. They walked Sarah to school, stood at the corner during pickup, checked her route home, identified vulnerable points, established protocols. It wasn't normal. Jennifer knew it wasn't normal, but normal had failed her daughter. People are going to talk, David said one night after Sarah was in bed. Having bikers around all the time, it looks like what? I don't know. Strange, dangerous, more dangerous than a stalker who took 17 pictures of our daughter through our fence? Jennifer's voice cracked. More strange than the police telling us our 7-year-old was imagining things while a predator hunted her. David had no answer. I don't care what it looks like, Jennifer continued. I care that Sarah sleeps through the night now. I care that she's not afraid to go outside. I care that she smiles again. She wiped her eyes. If that takes bikers, then it takes bikers. David pulled her close. You're right, I'm sorry, I know. It's not what we expected. None of this is what we expected. They stood there, holding each other, trying to make sense of a world where the scariest people had become their salvation. The trial was scheduled for 4 months later. Marcus Webb faced charges in 3 states. The evidence was overwhelming. Photographs, testimony, a pattern of behavior spanning nearly a decade. His lawyer tried every trick in the book, but nothing stuck. Sarah was asked to testify. Her parents agonized over the decision. She was 7 years old. Facing her stalker in court seemed cruel, traumatic, potentially scarring, but Sarah wanted to do it. "He followed other kids too," she said. "The police found pictures. What if those kids are still scared like I was? What if telling what happened makes them feel better?" Jennifer looked at her daughter, this brave, remarkable child who had survived something no child should experience. "Are you sure, baby? You don't have to. Nobody will blame you if you say no." "I know I don't have to." Sarah sat up straighter. "But I want to. He made me feel like nobody would believe me. I want him to know that people believe me now." The testimony took place on a Tuesday. Sarah sat in the witness box, looking impossibly small against the wood paneling and legal formality. Marcus Webb sat at the defendant's table, watching her with those same empty eyes. But Sarah wasn't afraid. Because in the gallery, taking up an entire row, sat 12 Hell's Angels in their best behavior clothes. Vince was in the center, his eyes never leaving Sarah's face. She told her story, simply, clearly, without tears. "I saw him everywhere, at school, at the store, at the park. I told my parents and the police, but nobody believed me. They said I was imagining things." "What happened at Lincoln Park?" the prosecutor asked. "He was walking toward me. I knew he was going to take me, so I ran to the scariest person I could see and asked him for help." "The scariest person?" "Mr. Vince. He had tattoos and looked mean." Sarah glanced at Vince and smiled. "But he wasn't mean. He was nice. He believed me right away. He stood up and the man went away." "Why did you choose him specifically?" Sarah thought about it. "Because I thought the bad man would be scared of him, and I was right." The prosecutor smiled. The jury smiled. Even the judge seemed to suppress a smile. Marcus Webb did not smile. The verdict came back in less than 2 hours. Guilty on all counts. 25 years to life, with additional charges pending in other states. When the sentence was read, Sarah looked at Vince. He nodded once. It was over. But the work wasn't finished. The Marcus Webb case exposed something that couldn't be ignored. The system's failure to protect children, to believe them, to act on their warnings. Vince couldn't fix the whole system, but he could do something. 3 months after the trial, he stood before a gathering of 200 Hell's Angels from chapters across the Midwest. "What happened to Sarah happens every day," he told them. "Kids in danger, nobody listening. Predators hunting because they know nobody's watching. We can't fix the police. We can't fix the courts. But we can be there when they fail." He outlined the program. Guardian Angels, they'd call it. Bikers volunteering to escort children in dangerous situations, to stand watch when families were threatened, to be the presence that made predators think twice. "We're not cops. We're not vigilantes. We're witnesses. We're deterrents. We show up, we make noise, we let the bad guys know that these kids aren't alone." The response was immediate and overwhelming. Within 6 months, Guardian Angels chapters had formed in 12 states. They worked with domestic violence shelters, child advocacy centers, schools in high-risk areas. They showed up at custody exchanges where violence was a possibility. They stood outside homes where stalkers had been reported. They became the protection that the system couldn't provide, and it had all started with a 7-year-old girl who grabbed a stranger's hand and said, "He's following me." 1 year after the park, Vince got a phone call. "There's someone here who wants to see you." He was at the Mitchell house for Sarah's 8th birthday party when his phone buzzed. The voice on the other end was Ghost, and his tone was strange, uncertain. "Who? You should probably just come." Vince made his excuses to Sarah and her parents and rode to the clubhouse. He didn't know what to expect. A problem, probably. Some complication with the Guardian Angels program, or a brother in trouble. What he found was a woman standing in the parking lot, his ex-wife, Karen, and beside her, holding her hand, looking up at him with wide eyes, was his daughter, Lily. Vince forgot how to breathe. "Daddy." The word broke something inside him. 2 years since he'd heard that voice. 2 years since she'd called him anything at all. "Hey, baby girl." Lily let go of her mother's hand and ran to him. He caught her, lifting her into his arms, holding her so tight he was afraid he might break her. "I missed you, Daddy. I missed you too. God, I missed you so much." Karen stood at a distance, arms crossed, looking uncomfortable. "She saw you on the news," she said finally. "The story about the little girl you saved. She asked if that was really you, if her daddy was a hero." Vince couldn't speak, just held his daughter and tried not to fall apart. "I know I've made things difficult," Karen continued. "I was angry. I had reasons to be angry. But Lily deserves to know her father, especially now that I've seen." She gestured vaguely at the clubhouse, at the Guardian Angel's banner hanging over the door. "You've changed." "I'm trying." "I know. I can see it." She took a breath. "I want to work out a real custody arrangement. Something consistent. Something Lily can count on." Vince looked at his daughter. At this child he had ached for every day for 2 years. "I'd like that." "Mommy says you help kids now," Lily said. "Like a superhero." "Not a superhero, baby. Just a guy who tries to do the right thing. The girl on TV said you were nice. She said you made her feel safe." "I tried." Lily put her small hands on his face, forcing him to look at her. "Can you make me feel safe too?" Vince felt tears streaming down his cheeks. He didn't try to hide them. "Always, baby. I'll always keep you safe." He looked at Karen over Lily's shoulder. His ex-wife was crying too. "Bring her to the birthday party," Vince said. "There's a little girl there I want her to meet. I think they'd be friends." Epilogue. 5 years later. Sarah Mitchell was 12 years old. She stood on a stage in Chicago, addressing a conference on child safety. Behind her, a screen showed the Guardian Angels logo, a pair of wings wrapped around a child's silhouette. "When I was 7, I was stalked by a predator. The police didn't believe me. My own parents doubted me. I spent 3 weeks convinced I was going crazy, that nobody would help, that he would eventually catch me." She paused. "But then I did something that probably wasn't smart. I ran up to the scariest-looking person I could find and asked him for help. And you know what? He helped. He didn't question me. He didn't dismiss me. He just stood up and made the bad man go away." She clicked to a photo of Vince, surrounded by children at a Guardian Angels event. "That man's name is Vince DeLuca. He's a Hell's Angel, a biker, the kind of person most parents tell their kids to avoid. But he saved my life. And since then, he and his brothers have helped protect hundreds of other children." She looked at the audience. Social workers, police officers, child advocates, parents. "I'm not here to tell you that bikers are better than police. I'm here to tell you that children need to be believed, that when a kid says something is wrong, we need to listen, really listen, before it's too late." She clicked to her final slide. A quote. "The scariest person in the room might be the one who saves you." I was lucky. I found someone who believed me. Not everyone is that lucky. That's why Guardian Angels exists, to make sure no child has to face a predator alone, to make sure there's always someone willing to stand up. She smiled. "My name is Sarah Mitchell. When I was 7, a biker saved my life. Now I'm working to make sure every child has someone who will do the same." The applause was thunderous. In the front row, Vince sat with Lily on one side and his new wife, Karen, who had given him a second chance, on the other. Beside them were Jennifer and David Mitchell, the family who had become his extended family over the years. Sarah caught his eye from the stage and grinned. He grinned back. 5 years ago, a terrified little girl had grabbed his hand in a park. She had trusted him with her life, based on nothing but instinct. That trust had transformed everything. It had brought his daughter back to him, had given him purpose, had proven that redemption was possible for anyone willing to reach for it, all because one child had been brave enough to ask for help, and one man had been brave enough to answer. After the conference, Sarah found Vince in the hallway. "Good speech, kid." "Thanks. I was nervous." "Didn't show." Sarah leaned against the wall beside him. She was almost as tall as his shoulder now, growing up so fast. "Lily's starting middle school next year. She told me she wants to volunteer with Guardian Angels when she's old enough." I know. She talks about it constantly. She looks up to you. She looks up to you too. You're her hero, the girl who trusted her daddy when nobody else did. Sarah was quiet for a moment. Do you ever think about what would have happened if I hadn't run to you that day? Vince had thought about it many times in his darkest moments when sleep wouldn't come. Yeah, I do. Me too. Sarah shivered slightly. He would have taken me eventually. I know that now. He was getting bolder every week. It was only a matter of time, but it didn't happen. Because of you. Because of both of us. You made the choice to ask for help. That took courage. I was terrified. That's what courage is, being terrified and doing the right thing anyway. Sarah smiled. You sound like my therapist. Your therapist is a smart lady. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the conference attendees mill around. So many people working to protect children. So many people inspired by a story that began with terror and ended with hope. Hey, Vince. Yeah? Thanks for believing me, for coming when you did, for everything after. Vince put his arm around her shoulders, carefully, the way he'd learned to do with children who had been through trauma. Thank you, Sarah, for trusting me when you had no reason to, for making me want to be the person you thought I was. You were always that person. You just didn't know it yet. Maybe she was right. Maybe redemption wasn't about becoming someone new. Maybe it was about finally becoming who you were always meant to be.